Hey guys, how you doing? Thanks for joining. This cup of tea while I complain about phone providers and the future of phones. Life without phones, let's call it that. Life without phones in the future. So Elon Musk made a comment the other day, which I like, which is the truth, is happening already, which I don't think he realizes that himself, but it's happening at the moment, which is basically that phones are going to be extinct in the next 5 years, whether we like it or not. I say it's happening already because right now I can tell you, I don't know where you are, okay, but if you're watching this on social media, I can tell you what you're doing is most likely you've got a headset on. If you have a headset on, that means you're already detached from your phone. You see that? You're detached from your phone because you don't really need to hold the phone. In fact, if YouTube didn't have ads, we try not to put ads on our video, obviously, because we don't need revenue. Okay. But if YouTube didn't have ads, I can tell you what, you're going to have your headset and you're just going to listen to YouTube on a headset without the phone. Right. So phones are already dying out. And that was before things like Whoop started coming out. So Whoop, again, is a trackable device. You just wear it. It has no screens and you just go and it tracks your health. Aura have a ring as well. Same thing. You just go, put it on. Aura, Galaxy, I think Ultra Human. There are quite a few health rings these days that all you do is you put it on and then that's you done. Okay. Nothing to do. Nothing else is required. And then you move. Yeah. So we have ours as well. Payment ring, Orukka, Orukka.com. All you do is you wear this, you put this on, you just tap to pay with this. You don't need your phone, you don't need your wallet. So it's happening already, right? So people are starting to realize that they don't need these boxes, these rectangular boxes that hasn't changed in years. Okay. All it's been doing is to get more cameras, to get more megapixels. Okay. I want to spend some time talking about that and we just see how we can change as a group. But it's happening already. That's one thing. It's happening mostly because of AI. So I can tell you right now, our rings also use AI. We have a new ring coming out this year, hopefully. We're talking to a few governments on this one as well and a few crypto providers because I don't think we're going to need banks. I don't think we're going to need KYC, but we'll see. So we're doing both. So we're talking to both. So people can get to decide, which is what we want to do. We want you to get a KYC ring if you want it through your government, or you want to get your own ring where you don't need your government and the government cannot track you. So we use crypto and use other ways. So we're doing both. We're independent. We're agnostic. Okay. If you want it cheaper, you go to the government. If you want to do it yourself, you do it yourself. But my point is, I think all these middlemen about banking, all these guys in the middle, Apple, Android, are going to go extinct. And all you have to do is just wear a wearable and move. Okay. But some people try this with China where they have the palm, right? So you just pay with your palm, you tap to pay with your palm. I think that's too intrusive. And I'll come to why, right? That's too intrusive. Same thing as well, people who have this chip embedded in them, right? They try that in Sweden and most Nordic regions still have it. Where you have a chip embedded in you. It's basically the same thing as this, right? It's a chip in here. Instead of putting on the ring, put it inside here. Okay. I'll come into why that's an issue, okay, and why it hasn't taken off. But this is taken off because you can just take it off and that's it. If you have this on you and you don't want to pay, or you think anyone is tracking you, or the government is going to know where you spend, you just put it away. That's it. No one knows. No one cares. So the fact that you can drop it and put it on is more important, right? But I want to talk about why phones are going to be extinct in 5 years. Number one is basically it's already happening. Okay, we don't know it's happening, but it's happening. Okay, we launched this last year. Okay, and we're already in 35 countries. People are ordering it. No adverts. We can't even afford adverts, I can tell you, because again, we started this ourselves with our own money. We're ex-bankers. So, it's already happening with no adverts. People, if your phone gets stolen, they come and order a ring. If you want safety for your children, for your wife, kids, everyone, you order a ring because now they don't need to give them your credit cards anymore. The runners also as well, if you're running, then you don't need a bag. You don't need a wallet. You just run with your ring. In fact, we have a fitness and payment ring together. So you can track your fitness, track your goals, and then actually tap to pay when you get to where you're going. You can run a 10K all the way and then run back home or get a taxi or train back home with this. So there's a lot of applications, and this is for businesses as well, so you can receive payment. What I'm trying to make is the fact that things are changing. Yeah, so people are now looking at it to say, okay, maybe we don't need a phone. Well, I want to give some credit so we can talk about phones and how to change that mentality, because people ask me as well, they're like, hey, I don't want to get rid of my phone. I love using my phone for payments. Maybe so. But I think the idea is that, one, right now, we're so addicted to our phones. That's a good tea, by the way, guys. So we're so addicted to our phones that if your phone gets stolen or lost right now, okay, you're locked out of banking because instead of having a ring, you have your phone. And you're locked out of your ID, okay, because government services are now going on phones, which makes no sense. I'm going to repeat, governments putting government IDs on phones is one of the most silly ideas ever, because you're taking sovereignty, your personal data, and putting it on a private device. Why? Because you can put it on a ring, you can put it on a QR code, you can put it on a card, but you're putting it on the phone only, right? And I say that only with a strong word because most government services are on nothing else but the phone, which is one of the craziest idea possible. That means if Apple goes down tomorrow, some people cannot access basic services in their country. So who's your government now? Is that Apple? Or is it your government? Because the government has put everything on the phone. And then Android or iPhones, and if any of those guys decide that they're going to lock out tomorrow, or Trump goes, Tim Cook, sorry, you're no longer in business. Trump could say that. Tim Cook and Trump could get into an argument tomorrow, and that's it. And the entire country is exposed because all you've done is put an ID on the phone, which you've just given away sovereignty. Yeah, so that to me is one of the most silly ideas, but it happens. Healthcare portals, that's a problem. Work systems, so work phones, everything. Now everyone just goes on the phone. My point is, phones were supposed to be an option, not the main point. It shouldn't be the main way that you can access work. Why? I think again, like I said, it makes sense because it's a global, it's a global point. I think we're looking at the numbers, right? It's a penetration rate of about 90, if not more, 90% of phones of users across US, UK, Europe, all developed countries. 90% of the population have phones. So it's easy. It's an easy one, right? If you want to just create an app, if you're a bank, all you have to do is create an app and you put it on Android and iOS, and you've got 90% of the population. Countries was developed country, the penetration is 110%. So that means the average person in the developed world has one phone. While in a developing country, right? So places like Africa, Asia, Southeast Asia, all these places actually have 2 to 1, sometimes 3 to 1 on the phone, which is crazy, right? Because again, these people have very simple phones, right? So it's not going to be an iPhone where it's $1,000. It's going to be about 2 or 3 Android phones generally people have there. But the point I'm trying to make is that it's easy, it's everywhere. Okay, so that's why it's easier, and I'll call it lazy for a bank or a government to just create an app. If you create an app, it's a low-hanging fruit. You've got most people. Okay, so that's important. And it's also secure as well, let's be honest. So phones as well are very secure. Okay, so if you tap to pay, it's tokenized, right? I need to have a whole topic on that one. But tokenization is easy. That means it just takes your card, your PIN. It's never stored on iPhone. What it does is tokenize and put in a vault, and all you would get would be just a random digit, randomized digit. Those that randomized digit, if a hacker tries to get into it, that's all they get, and they don't see anything in between. The personal data is stored separately, and it comes through a different track. I can talk about that separately, but the tokenization thing was very, very good. It's an Android and iOS thing that they came up with, which is what we still use today. So right now on our rings, we use a tokenized version. If you steal this ring, you get nothing on the user, right? Which is very different from other payment rings. Other payment rings, they link it to your primary account. So what happens if someone steals the ring, they've stolen your private account. But for us, we have this linked to a secure element so that if someone steals this, all they get is what's on this ring, which is probably 10, 100, depends, $1,000, that's all they get. Right? Your primary account is separate. So that's what we do here. And the technology, I think, was driven by Android and iOS back when they started looking at tokenization, which is done very, very well, So again, the other point as well is phones, right? So people can do phone-to-phone payments easily, which works, okay? But saying all that, we still have to then go into the dependency, right? The fact that we're all locked into that ecosystem, which is not good, yeah? Like we should not be relying on Apple. Everyone knows this as well. Apple are, going through 150 million a day that they make from users, right? And why? Because everyone's just locked into that ecosystem. And we're locked into that ecosystem while complaining, right? So people are complaining. In fact, in the EU, 3 banks took Apple this year, February. 3 banks took Apple to the EU court for unfair competition and practices because they can't get access to their customers. So they're complaining that they can't access their customers. As a banker, the first thing that came to my mind was that those people should be fired. Like the legal department, I'll fire them straight away. The bankers themselves, I'll find out. I don't want to talk about this because you can find out who it is as well, right? And most likely I know them. But the point I'm trying to make is that they, it's a problem if your bank is relying on your phone manufacturer to provide you services. Because there are other ways, right? They can just send you a QR code. Bank to banks can do QR code and make payments to each other. You can need a phone to take the picture, or you can just use an NFC. So this is also an NFC device, right? So NFC means that you can tap to pay with a POS terminal that doesn't rely on the phone, right? So we need ways around this, right? There needs to be a backup. You can't just rely on the phone, yeah? I know I'm talking to the wrong people here, but, if there's a banker watching this, bankers, if you're watching this, then start thinking about this, right? And put this as a business case. If you want, we can work together on these things, right? But it's simple. You can't rely on just a phone or Android or iOS only. Yeah. And I say this from experience, right? I remember, I'll just say that I worked at Credit Suisse for a few years as a, derivative structurer. And what we had to do was put together, options, synthetic options for customers. But the first things we used to do was look at like as soon as possible, we start developing an app. So as soon as possible, like we need an app for this and we create an app. But now I can tell you less than 5% of the apps were used, like 5% of the users actually open those apps. Even though the app is there, we publish it, put it in a brochure, we go out when we're meeting the customers, we explain, hey, there's an app for this. You can easily find out when you're in the money or out of the money on your options. If you want to exercise, you hardly opened it. But that's what bankers all think about. We just think we have to create an app. As soon as possible, we want to create an app. My point is there are other ways to get in touch with your customers, right? You can get in touch with them in person. You can get in touch with them with other devices like a wearable. You can get in touch with them with just a QR code, a website, right? Remember when website used to be a thing? Nowadays, everyone just wants an app, right? One of my apps, I kid you not, one of my apps, I have another business I run, right? Another app. But the customer or whoever was using the app, it's a movie selection app, right? Whoever was on the app came to me and asked for an app on the website. And I said, you're on the website. Because, yeah, can you select a movie? Yes. Can you guys all decide on what movie you want to watch? Yes. Then go ahead. Oh, yeah, well, I just wanted to check if you have an iOS or Android app. I said, no, guys, no. In fact, from then I decided that we're not even going to do it. So our movie selection app is a website. And then it allows 5 friends come together and decide a movie. It doesn't have to be Android or iOS every time. That's the point I'm trying to make. I think the guys are already working on an iOS and Android app, to be honest. But my point is, we don't have to, right? As a group, as consumers, you don't have to lock yourself into that ecosystem. If you do, then you only have yourself to blame for that. Yeah, if Apple for some reason decide to go down, or if Apple decide to increase the price, or Apple decide that they're not going to serve your customers anymore, which is your customers, they're not going to serve your customers anymore because you're going through them, then you can't take them to court. If you do, you're just wasting your time, right? And whose fault is that? Your fault. Okay. So that's it. I'm going to stop there for now without rambling on too much. I think the idea of our dependencies on phone is going to hopefully stop at some point. And it's going to be slowly. We're getting there already with our devices. We're getting there with wearables, and we're getting there with AI as well, because AI combined with wearables will be the future. So what that means then is we should be able to talk to our phone and say, hey, please transfer £5 to my mate. Transfer it. $5 to John in the USA. AI should be able to do that. And we're already working towards that. So a lot of devices are working towards that. And the way I see it, the writings on the wall for phones. I'll stop there for now. Have a good one, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Order Orukka, Orukka.com. Gotta get back to work now. Bye.